Most people treat their mental health like a fire extinguisher. They only reach for it and look to change it or improve it when the room is already full of smoke. Think about how you've been living lately. You go through a rough patch and life feels hard. So you realize that something needs to change, or maybe it's the new year and you recognize that the last year wasn't as good as you wanted it to, and so you become super motivated to make a change. So you start journaling, you start going for walks, you start eating healthier, and you really try to have slow mornings before starting your day. You really get on top of the things that you know make you feel good. And it works. It feels like the sun comes out more, you feel lighter, you wake up one morning and you think, I feel great. I have finally cracked the code, and you start feeling really, really good. That is the exact moment you are in the most danger. Because for most of us, feeling good is the secret signal to stop doing the very things that made us feel good in the first place, which is so totally backwards. So today we are talking about how to be proactive with your mindset, something that I never used to do, but as soon as I made it a priority, everything changed, and why treating your mental health like a first aid room that you only go to when you're not feeling great is exactly what is keeping you stuck in a cycle of fine instead of amazing. Let's use a simple analogy, your teeth. If you only picked up a toothbrush on the day where you felt a sharp stabbing pain in your molar, you are not really going to change much by brushing it. By this point, the damage has already been done, and by brushing the molar, you aren't cleaning your teeth. You're just trying to manage a problem. And I used to treat my mind the exact same way. I distinctly remember being at university and I had a really beautiful book that was super empowering. It had beautiful quotes and it was kind of designed for when you're having a hard day. And so if I felt left out of something or I had had a hard day, I would come back to my room, I would snuggle up in bed, I would take out this book and I would read it. And I would start to feel better. And then I would go about my day. But this is as productive as walking around whilst it's snowing outside in a t-shirt and shorts saying, it's all right, I've got flu medicine at home. Yeah, the flu medicine might help, but wouldn't it be far more resourceful, far easier to just wrap up warm so you don't get ill in the first place? And that is exactly what most people are doing with their mental health and what I was doing with mine too. We wait for the mental cavity, we wait for the mental flu, the burnout, the breakdown, the big argument, or just the bad day to realize that we need to make a change and to start to become conscious with how we're treating ourselves. We brush our brain for 3 days and the pain goes away, but then we put the brush back in the drawer. You wouldn't say, oh, my breath smells minty fresh today, I guess I'll never have to brush my teeth again. That's ridiculous. But we do it with our peace of mind every single day. We don't realize that our mental health is something we have to stay on top of as well. While you aren't brushing your mind, the plaque of daily life does build up. The small stresses, the negative news, the internal self-berating. So if you aren't proactive, you aren't building an immune system for your mental health. You're just walking around with your fingers crossed. And I did this too, hoping nothing knocks you down. But that is not how life works. Life is going to try its hardest to knock you down. But hopefully if you've been watching my videos for a while, you've started to realize that you can armor yourself with tools that prevent you from falling flat on the ground. Or if you do, that make it easier to stand back up again. So let's get into it. People often say to me, but it takes so much effort to stay positive when things go wrong. But actually, it only feels like effort because you keep stopping and starting. It's like trying to push a car. The hardest part is getting it started. But once it's rolling, you can keep it moving with literally one hand. But if you let it come to a stop every time you get to a flat road, you're going to spend your whole life exhausted from starting over. But when you are proactive, meaning you do the work even when you don't feel like you need to, you are training your emotional autopilot. You're literally teaching your brain that appreciation and self-love and positivity is the default setting. I actually did a whole deep dive video on exactly how to reprogram that autopilot and train your brain in the way that you want, how to make these positive reactions happen without you even trying, and to remove the willpower from it. So if you want to know specifically how to do that, then you should find a link on the screen to that video. It's essentially the how-to manual for what we're discussing in this video. The goal is that when a situation happens, you lose a client, your car breaks down, a friend cancels on you, or you lose your job, you don't have to fight to be positive or hit rock bottom every time. Instead, your body and your mind know exactly what to do automatically because you've been training for that very moment. And along with that, because your baseline happiness has increased so much by this proactiveness of working on your mind and helping yourself to feel more positive more of the time, when something does happen, you go down a little bit, sure, but because you're higher in the first place, you go down to where you would normally have started. So if you're normally at neutral and something challenging happens, you're going to go headfirst into low and bad, or maybe even danger zone. But if you're already up here, you might just go to neutral, which is absolutely okay and much easier to deal with. So why is it so hard to stay proactive? Because it really is the answer to everything. The reason it's hard is because of the relief plateau. When we're in pain, we're motivated. Pain is a great teacher. If your tooth is really, really hurting, you best believe you're going to be booking that emergency dentist appointment ASAP. And similarly, when we are feeling really low, we might not be as quick to try and get help for our mental health than we are with our physical health. But the worst pain that you're in, the sooner you realize that you need to make a change. So pain is a great teacher, and it signals to us that something needs to change. But once the pain stops and we hit relief and feel okay again, our brain says, mission accomplished. The motivation drops as soon as neutral is reached. But neutral isn't the goal. Neutral is just waiting for the next problem. And to be truly self-empowered, you have to find a new motivator beyond just stopping the pain. You have to be motivated by something. So for me, my motivation to be proactive is because I know just how low I can get. And I also know just how amazing I can feel when I'm proactive. That's my motivation. So your action point for this video is to find a motivator to be proactive with your mental health. You might find a motivator to be proactive with your physical health. Maybe you get a diagnosis that could possibly have been prevented if you moved more. And remembering that, or remembering a pain that you've been in, is what makes you commit to physiotherapy or exercise or just movement in general. You've got to find that for you as well. I know my partner's dad had a slip disc once, and ever since then, he has been really proactive with his physical health to make sure that doesn't happen again, and to make sure that he was as well prepared for old age as he can possibly be. And that's what we want to do with our brain. So what is your motivator? The reactionary mindset is, I'm going to journal because I'm feeling anxious. But the proactive mindset is, I'm going to journal because I know that I'm going to be calmer today if I do. The difference is, one is like running away from a lion. The other is building a shelter that protects you from the lion. We actually had a guy who came to one of my retreats, and at the retreat we have a journaling workshop, which is where we teach you how to journal in the way that works best for you and your brain. And one guy came along and he found a way of journaling that really worked for him. At one of our graduate events after the retreat, we were chatting with him, and he said that whenever he doesn't journal, he can really, really notice he's less patient, he's snappier, he's overall less connected with himself. And so journaling is a really proactive way for him to get ahead of his mood rather than a way for him to fix his mood. And that is exactly what we're talking about here. By the way, if a deep dive into improving how you feel on a consistent basis is something you're wanting to do and something you really want to get on top of in 2026, then I've included in the description several ways you can work with me or my team directly to get one-to-one help with this. But for now, here is my challenge for you this week. Stop waiting for a bad day to implement positive tools. Tomorrow morning, when you wake up and everything feels fine or maybe even a bit gloomy, I want you to double down. I want you to spend 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, set a timer on your phone and think for 5 minutes about the day and everything that you're looking forward to in it. Run through the day with your mind, looking for things that make you smile, things that you can do to make it feel better for yourself or make others feel better. Perhaps you realize that you could bring in some cakes for your colleagues. You could pop by Tesco's and get some snacks to bring in for them. Perhaps you could walk to the station instead of drive, which would make you feel good. Perhaps instead of listening to the news in the car, you could put on some happy music or a motivational speech. I always find that whenever I think there's like an account or whatever you'd call it on Spotify called Motivate, where the 8 is in number 8. And it's quite funny because the guy that introduces it is really monotone and the opposite of motivational, but the actual content of those motivational speeches is really, really empowering. And I find that when I listen to them on a consistent basis, I'm so motivated for work and just it makes me feel so good. But then when I stop listening to them or I just use them to make me feel good, it's again that kind of like plaster on an issue. Whereas if I was listening to that stuff, like I think to myself, imagine if I listened to this stuff every single day. Imagine if I started my day listening to this. I would feel amazing. And so that's what I do. I watch comedy before bed because I know that it proactively helps to make me feel happier in the morning. I listen to positive content before I start my day. I journal so that I'm connecting with me before I connect with other people because I know that the more connected I am with me, the better I am in my connection with others. Whatever you do, get out ahead of the storm. Build the shelter whilst the sun is shining. And if you do this, I promise you, the storms will still come. They always do, but they won't feel hard anymore. They'll just be weather, and you, my friend, will be the person standing in the rain, smiling or even dancing because you're already dry. You already packed the umbrella and the waterproofs. So change your beliefs and you change your thoughts and then you change your life. It really is that simple. And with that, I will see you in the next video. If you enjoyed this one, then please give it a like, a subscribe, a follow, depending on where you are watching or listening. And all that is left to say is, I appreciate you.